Welcome back to another episode of Voices from the Field. It is just Carie and I today, and we are going to really hone in on the Parent Playbook, which is our topic for the month of April. So, the Parent Playbook is really all about parents. Pretty self explanatory, just kind of catering to the parents' needs and their questions and their concerns and everything in between. I think that parents are mostly the ones that are blamed, but then also not the ones that are given the most help, which I think as a parent, like it's your first time doing this, just like the player is. So we just at Extra Inning Softball, we really thought it'd be a great way to involve the parents, answer their questions, and really help them navigate through the process of their player, whether she's starting and continue, whether she wants to go through recruitment, whether she's already committed, whatever it may be. We felt like this might be a really great topic for the parents. So we are gonna dive into some hot topics related to parents and their issues and concerns. So I kind of want to start off Carie, because she was just talking to me about her next upcoming summer and planning for that and the financials of that. What do you think about the financial burden that travel softball really puts on a parent? Like, how have you seen it evolve over time? And like, what are your thoughts about it? Because I've heard a lot of things about it.
Well, I literally just finished a 6 trip, and I guess you can call them trips, but a 6 event thing for my daughter who will be playing at the national level, doing all the Colorado thing and all that kind of stuff. And when I finished with it and I showed my husband what we spent, he kind of just looked at me and was like, "Oh my gosh, I got to go get another job." And I was like, "Yeah, it feels like that because in those 6 events, and now I want you to understand when I say those 6 events, one of them is a 13-day trip. So it correlates to that. And probably should have our heads examined for even doing those things, but we passed that button a long time ago when we jumped all into softball and what we were doing. I keep questioning myself of why I didn't buy our golf clubs. I can honestly tell you that because there's more money to be had in that, and I could be sitting in beautiful clubhouses and not sweating and all those kind of stuff. But with that being said, we are literally north of $9,000. That does not include food or gas or equipment that breaks while we're on the road. That is literally just lodging and transportation to get there. Now, I have to come out and say I rent cars to every trip we go because I don't want to put that wear and tear on my own personal car, specifically since my husband just got me a brand new one. So I plan on that one lasting me at least through Macy's college career, which is 5.5 years down the road, I guess I should say. So, with that being said, it's expensive. It's extremely expensive. It's gotten way more expensive in the last few times. I can also say that you can make it cheaper by sending your kid with somebody if you want to. That's just not me as a mama. Like, number one, I'm not going to miss it. I was told very early on that you have 18 summers with your kid, and I'm down to 2. So I'm not missing anything that she does. And I think you could make it cheaper if you did a lot of VRBOs and split it with families. And I'm just going to tell you, like, maybe I'm weird, but I want my own time away from people that I'm traveling with. Like, I don't consider these vacations because if I was going on a vacation, I'm not going with softball people. Like, I'm going to the beach. I'm going to, sit there with my feet up, just relaxing. So I don't consider it a vacation, but I consider it an investment into my child's future.
Yeah.
I know that if I'd saved up all the money over the last 10, 12 summers, I could pay to put my kid through college. So you can't say you do it for the scholarship. You can't say you do it for anything. But for me, I do it because it's something that she's passionate about. It's her love. It's her desire. It's what she wants to do. And this is an exciting summer for me because I'm doing it from a parent's point of view for the first time. Like, I've always been the coach on the field. So I selfishly, I'm super excited, probably more in spending the money and doing everything the right way as far as I'm concerned. One, because it's one of the last summers I'll be doing it with her other than next summer. And two, because I get to do it from a side that I've never done it from. I've always had to be worried about the team and the lineups and the weather. And I am literally just worried about Macy and her being fed because food's very important to her. She eats me out of house and home. And really enjoying that time with my mom and dad too, because they're going to travel to everything with us too. So it is kind of me combining that part of it.
Yeah.
Does it have to be done that way? Absolutely not. There's lots of different ways and levels that you can do it. And I think that's really important. Like, I think you have to decide, why am I doing it? I can tell you, and this is probably a whole nother topic we can talk about. From a coach's standpoint, I have watched so many young women do all of this and parents dive all into it and just go crazy after it. And then they commit and it's like party's over. I'm going to sit back and take a big deep breath. And I told my daughter, like from being a college coach for so long, you can sit back and take a big deep breath and relax and love it for a couple weeks. And then you got to dive in even harder. You've got to work harder than you've ever worked prior to get where you're at right now. And I think people think that's kind of crazy, and I don't. Like, I don't think you can say, well, I just need to have some downtime or relax time, or I don't want it to be as expensive or anything like that. Because for me, this is the time that you go up against the best. You play against the best. You travel to do those things. Like, you play for different people. You play as if your scholarship depends on every time you go out there. And not from a pressure standpoint, but from a growth standpoint. I can't tell you how many times in coaching I would watch kids, and I never required it as a college coach that they had to play that summer before. But any young freshman player that came in who took the path of, I'm not going to play as much, or I'm just going to pick up, or I'm going to relax before I start college. I can't say every one of them, but pretty near every one of them did not have the freshman year that the ones who said, I'm going after it. I'm chasing this harder, faster than I ever have before. Our sport is an everyday sport. Our sport is not a sport that you can show up and practice really hard 4 months a year and be great. So that's my thought process on it. So is it really expensive? Yes. Will I have to work till I die? Most likely. Am I ever going to retire? Probably not. But I don't even know if that's in my makeup anyways. So I think for me, it is money well spent twofolds. It's
Yeah.
an investment in my child's future. It's what she's passionate about. If we weren't doing this, what would we be doing? We'd be doing something.
Right. Right.
So, what are we doing? And fortunately for me, it's the money that I would be trying to help her spend to go to college. Well, she's got that right now. So why
Mhm.
not invest and get her to where she can keep that? And so that's kind of my thought process. But man, $10,000, like I'm sitting there thinking, I need to go be a Walmart greeter or something in the middle. And I'm not making any fun of Walmart greeters. I think they got the best job in the world, but
Yeah.
I'm looking for different ways. Like I'm doing more lessons. I'm doing different things.
Yeah.
It's certainly not the game, obviously, when I played, probably not when you played. But the reality is nothing in life is. Like when you're paying $9 for a dozen eggs, obviously everything's gone up.
Correct.
So I guess that's my take on it as far as the financial part of it. And I know a lot of teams that are only playing 4 events or so, and they're staying more local and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not judging or saying there's anything wrong with that. It's just choices that we all make. We make
Yeah.
those choices.
I definitely want to say too, we have a survey that we put out a few months ago about tournament cost, and we are going to do a podcast all about those results. It was super interesting to hear the perspectives of tournament costs, travel costs, how it's impacting, who's going where and what team you're on and all that fun stuff. So stay tuned. If you're really interested in this topic, make sure you stay tuned. We're going to go over those results this month to
And I
talk
think
more
it's
about.
cool we can bring up at this point in time, even like some of our partners like Chris Caldwell with Edward Jones and stuff with her 27 Fast Pitch Foundation. I think that's even neater. Like she literally has developed this foundation to be able to pay dues for young women whose families can't afford it. And I think she's able to cover 5 kids' expenses this summer for the very first time out. Those are the kind of things that I think for me is my reason or my why behind extra innings softball. When you think about what our whole motto of empower, inspire, and support, I mean, she's changing the lives of those 5 young women because she's going to open up doors for them in their future to go to college, whether it's junior college, Power Four, it doesn't matter. It's just that
Yeah.
the ability of doing something that they wouldn't be able to do should they not have that. So I think it's really important that we talk about that when we talk about getting that, because I know she's not the only organization out doing wonderful things like that. So I would really challenge
Absolutely.
anybody to reach out to I think it's info@extrainning.com. Anything that you have like that, send us those things as far as nonprofit organizations that are doing things for our game, doing things to change the world. And I don't know, leave the dugout better than you found it is kind of my whole thought
Yeah.
process. So I definitely think that's huge for sure. Well, that
Absolutely.
brings me to this part, and I think it'd be cool because I think it's interesting that you've got me as an old mama that's the mom, and then you as a young person that's just come off of playing from college and all that kind of stuff. But you got a daddy who's a coach and a younger sister, so you can probably even supply in this podcast a lot of information of being the older sister of a younger sister playing ball
Mhm.
at the Division I level and been there and done that so new and relevant, so close to them. So when we talk about that, I think the first thing that I would love to bring up, because I hear it all the time, is like, how do you as a parent or a player for that matter manage difficult coaches? Now, I've been a coach, and I'm sure I was called difficult on numerous occasions. I probably still am called difficult, but I could say difficult coaches, or then even change it to difficult parents. Like, how do you help your daughter, help your teammate, help your sister work through those situations? Because difficult does not mean bad.
Yeah.
I want people to understand that. When we say a difficult coach or a
Yes.
difficult parent, it doesn't mean a bad parent or a bad coach. It's just difficult. And it might be difficult because the chemistries don't work. It might be difficult because they're so demanding. It might be difficult because you don't agree with everything, you know? So give me some of your thought process, or maybe even examples of not your current sister playing, but things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I love what you mentioned. Like, it doesn't mean they're a bad coach. I think for the most part, I think every coach has the right intentions. Every coach, like I said, there might be a few bad apples every now and then, but I think overall, every coach is a good coach. It just is some just don't jive with that. Like, it's just the personalities may not jive. There might be situations where they just like not same background. Like, there's a lot of different things I feel like that kind of go into that. So I think that I love you mentioned not a bad coach, just difficult. Maybe someone that you don't communicate well with, or maybe they just say the thing that you take it the wrong way. Like, you have people that are dry, you have people that are sarcastic, and you got to learn how to take it. So I think the biggest thing, and this is coming from a player, because everyone's had a difficult coach. Like, everybody that's played for long enough has had a coach they can think of that was like, yeah, that was a hard communication, barrier there. That was a hard season of my life. And I think as a player, having been through a difficult coach, I think the most important thing is to not feed into it as a parent or a teammate, or maybe like an older sister, younger sister type thing. Is, I think a lot of times, and I get it, it's a high emotions, and if you're watching someone you love maybe not be treated the best, or may not, be enjoying that present moment, I think it's really easy to get really emotional and kind of like feed into the negativity and feed into like, oh yeah, that coach is stupid. I can't believe they did this or whatever. And I think not the key, but maybe a really important piece is to like, I don't know. I think it's a balance between listening to the athlete, listening to your player, sister, daughter, whoever, but then also not feeding into it. Because I think that that's where it can get really negative. And instead of trying to help them through that, it ends up just being a bash fest. And then then you're negative, and then the player picks up what the parent's saying, and then they take it to the field. And I think it can get really difficult with that. And I think too, and again, I'm not a parent, but I am an older sister, and I treat my sister sometimes like a child because we have a fun little age gap there. But I think as someone that loves someone that's playing, you don't want them to go through something hard. Like, you want to protect them like all the time. Like, if they're going, you want to fix it. And I think sometimes it's like, you just can't fix it. And you just got to be like, that sucks. And I hate that. And that must be really difficult, but you just got to kind of put your big girl panties on, and how are we going to fix it? We're not going to sit there in it. So that's kind of my take on it. I'd love to hear yours again as a coach, because I'm sure you have difficult players. It goes both ways. And
Absolutely.
then also as a parent.
Yeah. Well, number one, the first thing I always ask myself is, would I want to eat vanilla ice cream every day? And the answer is no. Like, I love ice cream, but I love all kinds of ice cream. Like, I like chocolate. I like mocha almond fudge. I like mint chip. I like variety. And I think people are variety, and everybody has different baggage that they're bringing with them to any given situation. I
Right.
think if I were to say anything, the number one thing that has got to be a focus for parents, and I hope and pray for coaches, is teaching communication.
Hmm.
I think we have two ears and one mouth for a reason. And most of the time, our one mouth is running more than our two ears are. And I think when we talk to people, and I think when I talk to like groups of young women, if we all sit there and say, if you get in a fight with a teammate on your team in high school and you were best friends and it blows that friendship up, you probably won't talk to them the rest of those years in high school. And then you come to your 10-year reunion and you run up and you hug each other and you're laughing and you're joking. The two of you can't even remember what that fight was for. That's just
Right.
females. Females tend to take things personal. Females tend to want to please. And I think whether we want to blame technology, our world is going so fast that when I'm listening to someone maybe confront me about something or talk to me, and I think that's even a word, don't take everything as a confrontation. I think we
Mm,
have to be really smart of when we have those conversations so emotions aren't involved. So you hear a lot of people of there's a 24-hour rule. I like that because to me, I can always remember my dad saying, like, if just walk away from it. If it's bothering you tomorrow, then it's time to talk to somebody about it. And
right. I love that.
80+% of the time, I don't
Yeah.
even, yeah, it's just not a big deal. It's minor. Like I was just took it personal or I was just reaction or bottom line, I just don't really care. Like I'm not going to waste my time on it. So, but I think that 24-hour rule of like walking away from it is huge. Now, obviously that's if there's no physical or mental
Right,
thing
yes. And
on
I
with it.
think that needs to be a disclaimer. We're not talking about, like, abuse. Like, we're not
Yeah, we're
talking
not
about
talking
something
about
that's,
the
like
coach took the bat out of your hand and hit you upside the head.
correct. Yeah,
No, I'm
like,
not
that's
going
I'd like
to
to
start charges
clarify
yet.
that.
So,
Yes, right.
I think that's huge. And I guess I can talk about this because I don't even remember the coach's name. And it's in baseball, so we can bash baseball if we want to. But my son was playing for a baseball team in Florida, pretty competitive baseball team at 9 or 10 or however competitive you can be at that age.
Right.
And I was coaching at the University of Florida, and my husband was a sheriff deputy at the time. So I got to get that as a caveat out too. And his coaches were hotheads. When I say hotheads, like I was like, we'll just make it through this season and we'll find another place to go. Like I thought it was a good learning experience for my son.
Yeah.
And look, my kid started and played every game. So I'm not coming from a standpoint of, oh, my kid wasn't playing and should have been. The one coach's son was a catcher. So was my son. So, there was that people were like, your kid should be catching. I'm like, I don't care. No matter. Like,
It's
it doesn't matter. And we were at a practice. I can remember it gets my hair on the back of my neck up even
fine.
today. And my son's on deck and I'm sitting there. And I think this coach thought I was coaching my kid. And I had my hand up because it was sunny. And Max turned around and said something and we all laughed. It was just like something about the sun. I don't know what it was. Nothing. It was just a little 9-year-old humor. And the coach that was throwing BP threw a ball. It appeared like he threw it at my kid because it whizzed right past his head and hit the fence. And I think it caught me so off guard. I was like, well, my husband, who was in uniform, stood up and I just grabbed his arm. I said, go get the car. I'll take care of this. Go get the car. And he was like, I'm like, no, you're in uniform. This is not worth your job. Don't be daddy right now. Go get the car. So and my husband is very even keeled. It takes a lot to get, I mean, he deals and has seen a lot
Yeah.
as a so
Right.
and my mom was with us at that time. My dad wasn't there because I think I would have had to pull my dad off the coach. But my husband left. My mom, I said, get the chairs. I looked at Max. I said, go to the dugout and pack your bag. And he was like, but it's my turn to hit. I said, don't make me ask you again. Go to the dugout and pack your bag. Well, the other coach had seen it, obviously knew it was wrong and came up. He's like, I'm going to deal. I'm like, no, there's nothing to deal with. My child will no longer be playing on this team. And he was like, well, you can't quit in the middle of the season. I said, we're not quitting. We're leaving a situation before my husband goes to jail. And Max was like, but mom, I said, pack your bag. So we started to walk off. And so they called the next day, both of them, and like, we'd like to talk and meet. I'm like, look, there's really just nothing even to talk or meet. There's nothing you could say to me that would make it okay with what happened. I will accept your apology and that's fine, but I am not putting my 9-year-old child in a position to where you could lose your temper like that again. You threw a ball at my child. Now, whether you just threw it past him to miss him to get his attention
It
because you
doesn't
thought
matter.
I was coaching him, it doesn't matter. And I said, and I want you to know, I coach him all the time, but I wasn't coaching him then. Like he
Mhm.
literally made some funny comment and the whole parent group laughed. And,
Right.
and he was like, well, he should have been paying attention. I said, no, you should have been paying attention to who you were throwing at because you shouldn't have even heard or seen because there was no ruckus. And
Right.
so he was like, well, I just think as a coach, you should set a good example. I said, I am. I'm setting an example as a coach that that's not okay. And you cross those.
Yeah.
That's just all
Absolutely.
there is to it. I'm not even
Yeah.
angry. And I'm like, quite frankly, you're going to save us a ton of money this summer. And my kid's just going to take the summer off. We're okay with it. He's 9. He's
Yeah,
9.
he's nice. He's gonna be okay.
9. And so I think back down, I wish I would have made him play on a different team because that's when he veered and started getting into rodeo. And that costs way more than softball
Yeah,
or
it's more
baseball. So
dangerous too, I'm sure.
oh, yeah, when the horses are costing what 3 summers of ball, costs my daughter,
It's
I go, oh, I should have made him stay with baseball. So I think with that, what I'm trying to say is there are those lines that you have to delineate
absolutely.
between. I think as parents, like what you were saying, it's really important that we listen to our kids and hear them and then pose the other side and then tell them, I think you need to set up a time to talk with your coach, and obviously based on the age, I'll be honest with you, I would always advocate for your parent to be there with a coach talking when they're young because it's their learning time. But
Yeah.
I think you have to know as a parent that you have to be quiet and let your kid talk and literally diffuse the whole situation with the coach by saying, look, my child has expressed some concern. I'm not at every practice. I'm not there with everything. I've heard what they've said and it's not going away from them. So I've encouraged them to set this up. I am here and only here to hear what you as the adult are saying to them to help them process it as a kid because
Right.
I'm a kid. And
Yeah.
if your kid's emotional, which most young girls are going to be emotional in an authority situation, and say to make sure that she can communicate what she's saying to me and not just saying, well, I said and they said. Because I don't want to, I'm on your side. Like we are in this together as adults trying to help a young woman grow up. And
Yeah.
so I think that's really important to do that. And it's not always easy as the parent to keep your mouth shut. I get it. But I think it's really important because they need to hear it. We need to hear what the coach is saying. And then the coach can ask questions with us as a parent, because at the end of the day, we only as parents have one young woman to worry about. The coach has however many they have on the team.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really hard for most people to do it. And like, obviously, you're in college and you're getting paid to do that. That's my job. So that's all I have to focus on. But you start talking about these travel organizations, or you start talking about high school stuff, like they have a lot of other things on their plate. And I can promise you, they're not as worried about it or thinking about it as much as your daughter or you are at any
Right.
given
Yeah.
time. They have some,
100.
I mean, some of these
Yeah.
people are teaching calculus.
Yeah. Right.
Like, they're teaching calculus, like, I wouldn't even be able to write a lineup if I had to think about math. So,
Right.
like, there's all those things. So, I think coaches can help a lot with establishing some guidelines of saying, "Hey, this is how we're going to deal with these," and say we might have to agree to disagree, and
Mhm.
it's okay, and we can work through those things. But I just don't feel like we as a society are valuing communication or valuing debate. I mean, all you have to do is turn on the TV and watch what's going
Right.
on in the world of politics. And it's like, who can talk louder? Who can talk over someone? Or who can go and recruit how many people to show up to say, we want this coach's job, all those kind of
Yeah.
things. And I'm just going to encourage parents and players, be careful with those difficult coaches, specifically the difficult coaches that are successful, of what you wish for, because
Yeah.
you might end up being part of that group that gets them fired and you go from being 21-0 to 0-21.
Mhm.
And most times people look back and go, And I think when you enter into any conversation with a coach, with a difficult parent, if you say, like, really truly say, I want to see it from your side to help
Mhm.
this young person
Right.
develop. And
Right.
we might not agree, and we might at the end of it all agree to go our separate ways or whatever it
Mhm.
is. But I'm sure there are some out there. You can never say never in anything, but I don't believe any difficult parent or any difficult coach. And that's hard for me to say because I've coached and I've had a lot of difficult parents to say that.
Yeah.
And when I was in it, I thought they were just horrible, rotten human beings because everything
Yeah.
seems personal and all this
Right.
stuff. And why can't they see it my way? But if I can really look at it of like, why did they see it a certain way? And at
Yes.
the end of the day, know that I can't control how they feel about the conversation. I can't control that I'm going to change their mind or their anything like that. But I can control going into it to say, I'm going to commit to listen before I respond. And I have a hard time. Heck, you can see it on the
It's not
podcast when
easy.
you ask a question and I'm already starting to form my opinion on it. But then
Right.
to listen to what someone's saying before you respond,
Yeah.
I think if we can do that, knowing that nobody is intentionally out to, can I say the word screw your child or you as a human being? I mean, you can say the same thing as umpires. Like I can sit there and go, "Oh my God, they're so bad, they're homers." I don't think any umpire showing up for a high
Yeah.
school game being paid $60 and having 500 people say horrible,
Yeah.
rotten things sits and goes, "Man, I'm gonna screw this player and watch this. That ball's
Exactly.
in the other box. That's strike 3, go sit down."
Exactly.
And I can tell you, I just witnessed something at the last high school game I've never seen with umpires, and he just walked off. He just said, "Ball game," walked off because he was upset with the other coach. And I'm like, and he left his partner high and dry. And I'm looking at his partner, and I know both of them.
I've been mad. I'd have been like,
I was
seriously?
like, and he just turned around and looked at me. Now, these two teams had driven 3 hours, so 6 hours round trip. And the varsity game was already over. So it didn't happen in the varsity game. It happened in the next one. the JV game, which
Yeah.
those kids already don't get what they should for what the time that they put in.
Right.
And we
Right.
just walked off, and I was just like speechless. And I just looked at the guy behind the plate and I was like, "Yeah, can I get you water?" I didn't even know what to say.
You're
And
like,
and I
"There."
don't even know everything that happened, and I'm sure there's parts of it that I don't know.
Yeah.
And there was a major altercation between the coach at home plate after the game and all that kind of stuff. So there's all these sides, and I just sat there, and my dad's like, "I've never seen anything like that." I'm like, and you know what's sad is they'll probably still pay him the full thing, but he had
Yeah.
thrown the other coach out at the very end. The game was over. It was a play at home. Game was over. Thrown her out. Screamed and yelled, hopped, hula, all this kind of stuff. She definitely went overboard. I did not see any
Yeah.
physical contact, but she was a
Right. Which
screaming.
usually happens. Yeah.
Yeah, streaming, and he threw her out, and so 15 minutes between games, she was still in the dugout, so I was like, "Well, maybe he didn't throw her out, maybe he just confined her to the dugout or something," and then they didn't like another call at first, and the next thing you know is he turned around and he said, "Ball game," walked out and just left, and I was like to the point, and they were playing at a
You weren't
college where
allowed.
the college coach wanted up and ended up going out to call the bases to finish the game. So
Jeez.
I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, what an incredible thing. So obviously my daughter's in the car and we're debating and talking all of it. And I said, look, the way she reacted at the end of the game, I understand it. It was a tense game. It was number 1 and 2 in the
Yeah.
state, all these kind of things. It was a really close play at home. Could have gone either way. She was out of line with the way she ran and attacked. And I'm not going to even say I heard her swear. She might have. I don't know. I didn't even hear anything because she was so tiny and little and blonde and fiery and all that stuff. And just went on and on, and he kind of like said go, and then she just kept it, but he threw her. But at the same time, like I said to my daughter, by him doing what he did, he's just null and voided any repercussions that she should have had. Like
Right.
this, and like I said, I was right there. I witnessed the whole thing, and I still don't know everything that happened. So there's
Right.
always more to it. But I just don't believe in the end, and this isn't that parent playbook, whether it's from coaches. Like I think I pay an admissions ticket to go and watch my daughter play. So I have every right to question whether a coach made the right call. Man, I wish we wouldn't have suicided at that point in time. I
Right.
think coach's skin needs to be thick enough that so
Agree.
what? Like that's just an
Yeah.
opinion.
That's what
And
I did. And yeah.
when I paid money to question you. I can
Yeah.
question you anytime I want to. Now, should I be standing up going, "Why'd you squeeze?" Absolutely not. But I should be able to have that. And coach's skin's got to be thick enough that that's not personal. It's just you're in the moment. And the same thing with umpires. If it's a bad call, "Oh, Blue, you missed that one." You should be able to say that, and the umpire should not turn around and address you. Like,
Yes, I agree with
oh, you're
that.
getting paid to do this. You got to be able to take that a little bit, So I think everybody's uber sensitive because things do get so out of control. But the bottom line for your child and for you in dealing with difficult coaches is to really encourage that communication. Listen more than you do it. Hold your kid accountable. Like, hold your
Mhm.
kid accountable. And I can tell you more times than not when I've met with a coach with my daughter to hear there's either things I didn't know.
Right.
Okay. She reacted, she said, she did, she didn't do, she didn't say. And I've always told my daughter, I don't care how much they make you run. I don't care how many sit ups you got to do. Like, do it. And then at the same time, I also told my daughter, but you also have to advocate for yourself. If you
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
something's wrong, you need to stand up and say, I'm not okay with this. And
Mhm.
be okay with that might mean you don't play. That might mean you get kicked off the team. But if you do what you believe is right, you'll live with it and it won't ever bother you. Because the biggest thing that I would always hope that I can give to my child is never to say, what if? What if I would have stood up for my teammate? What if I would have gone and talked to the coach after I had an issue? What if I would have been able to say, I just didn't work hard enough. I need to
Mhm.
work harder. I think the more we can teach self-reflection of what can I do to make a situation better, the better off your kid and you and the coach and everyone's going to be. And if you can't do those things, there's a lot of sports out there that you don't have to play a team sport. You don't have to
Yeah.
answer to a coach.
Right.
You answer to yourself. Go play golf. Go play
Mhm.
tennis. Go do the things that is more of an individual sport. And that might very much suit you and your family better. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with it. Heck, they make more money than we do. They probably are a lot smarter than us. So,
Right.
with that being said, I think that's the biggest thing I think of when I think about difficult parents and difficult coaches. Like, I don't want vanilla ice cream every day. I like vanilla ice cream, but I want lots of different things. I don't think anybody that is volunteering their time or even being paid for it at that it if I'm being paid to win ball games, I'm not going to just screw with a kid to screw with them
Yeah,
specifically.
it's the opposite. Yeah.
tell you, my lineup would have been written so different if I could have just played the kids I liked or the parents who weren't difficult. And so I think that's really important. And then I guess the last caveat before we can move into a different thing would be to say to you is like, do your research. Do your
That's what I
research
was
on
gonna say.
who you're going to put your child with. And you
Yeah,
can't necessarily do that with high school, you can. If it's a bad enough situation, put them in private school. Put them somewhere else. Like people go, "Oh, well, that's not fair. I shouldn't have to pay." Well, then you don't have to play. Like
right,
there's a lot of different ways that you can handle things. So I just think if you can celebrate the differences, encourage communication, realize, I mean, I think about some of the subscribers that we've used with or dealt with in extra inning softball since I've been here who were like pounding like this is wrong, this is this, and I just kept the communication line up even if I was rolling my eyes or expressing
right,
frustration, and just kept to where I could hear and go, "Oh, I hear what they're saying. I understand that." But I'm going to tell them why it happens this certain way, and maybe we need to relook at this, and maybe we need to revisit this, and be willing
right,
to say, "Hey, I hear you. I can't do anything about this now this way, but what about this? And what about this? And would you be willing to do this?" Then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, like we're buddies. And it's like, we probably both hated each other going into the situation because we both had our thoughts and our points and we wanted to win. And you got to remember,
right,
parents, athletes, and coaches are all competing all the time. That's what we love. We love competition. So we want to win.
right.
There's conversations that there's no winners. It's just conversations so that we can be all on one team. And I think
Right.
that's key. So when I say that, I don't know if that really does it, but I think advocating for your child means advocating to teach them how to be an adult. Because at the end of the day, I want softball for my daughter to be what prepares her for life,
Yeah.
what
Right.
allows her to be able to navigate butt chewings that she deserves when she's employed and ones that she doesn't deserve.
Mhm.
And I think the bottom line is, I'm gonna always circle it back to faith for me, is there is nobody that's been brought into my life that Jesus has not put in my life for one of two reasons. And maybe one of three reasons. I'm there to help them. They're there to help me in growth or whatever. Or maybe it's both. I don't know. Leah said that to me the other day. Well, maybe it's both. And I'm like, yeah, no, I like it simple. I just want it black or white. I'm there for them or they're there for me. And
Right.
sometimes we don't even know what that is until a door shuts and another door opens,
Yeah, right.
and I think that's really, really important when we think about those things. So I don't know if that.
And I think kinda on top of that, like, just knowing your like, what coaching style you, like, want/respond well to, I think and we talk about that with college all the time, and like you said, it's harder to do that in travel ball, but, I mean, I think as a parent, as a player, like, what coaching style are you good with? Like, are you good with the screamer who yells at your and which is fine, there's no right or wrong, like, are you good with the coach that is very direct and you mess up and you're gonna know about it? Or would you rather have a more passive coach that may pull you aside afterward? Like, it's that kind of stuff that I think, like you said, you gotta figure out because you can't blame the coach for coaching the way they coach because just because you're not that's not how you work or how you think. So I think it also comes down to that.
You bring up something that you just made my like a light bulb go off. So here's what I have found so interesting, and it's something I've had to really deal with my daughter a lot on this high school team. I used to always think as a coach when I was younger that you had to treat everybody the same.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, I think it's wrong. I
Mhm.
think you have to treat everybody the way that's best suited to get the best out of that young person. And then you do that. And then the ones that you're not treating a certain way are like, well, like what you
Yeah.
don't treat them. Well, why are you worried about how they're treating them? And what my example to this is my daughter is like, well, she just yells at her all the time. And I'm like, why does that bother you? Does it bother her? And she's like, I don't know. I'm like, so why are you letting it bother you? Because she's not treating you
Right.
that. And
Right.
she's like, well, I wouldn't function well if she yelled at me like that. I'm like, she's not yelling at you.
Right. Yeah. It's
And she
true.
kind of like looked at me and she's like, I'm like, look, I used to make those mistakes. I made that mistake for 15 plus years in my coaching career that everyone had to be treated the same. And I don't think so because I don't think that's what's best. We're not all the same.
Yeah. We
You
don't
know what I
respond the
mean?
same
So
way.
you don't have to respond that way, and maybe that kid that's being yelled at, the best thing you could say, hey, you doing okay with everything? And if they go, yeah, good, why? What? Leave it
Yeah.
alone. And if they're
Yeah.
like, no, I'm really bothered by her yelling, maybe then you become the person that advocates for them. I think you should go and talk to her.
Yeah.
Because I think every athlete, every human being has their wow button. Like it's somewhere on your body and you
Yes.
don't know where it's at. And I think as adults, we have to teach young people how to find their own wow button. Like it's
Mhm.
not my job as an adult to push your wow button all the time. That's where I think
Right.
the screaming coaches think that all athletes fit into one. That's not true.
Yeah, it's not
Like
true.
their well buttons in a different place, you know? And I think
Right.
if you can figure that out to know that I don't want to treat everybody the way I want to be treated. Because what is so arrogant about me to think that everyone wants to be the way treated the way I want to be treated.
That's true.
And if you
That's a
think
good
about
point.
it that way, you kind of go, ooh. And I wish I could tell you I thought of that myself. I didn't. I don't remember where I that when I started thinking about that as a coach, it kind of goes back to what Sue Inquist talked about. You stop being a transactional coach. You don't keep
Yeah,
everybody at a
right,
distance because you want to march them like this and do this. You know what? If Katie does better for when she messes up, for me to pull her in and whisper in her ear like you do that ever again and your butt's going to the bench and no one hears it, and that
right.
gets your attention, you go. And yet Jaden needs me to turn and go, you ever do that again, you'll never play for me. And everybody
Yeah,
go, well, you know, and then people will say, well, you should never be yelling like that. Like, I understand that. Like, I
yeah.
understand there's things that I go, but I think if we slow down and step back and go, I'm not going to treat everybody arrogantly enough the way I want to be treated. I'm going to
Mhm.
treat them the way they want to be treated to
And that
get the,
requires listening.
and it
Yeah,
requires listening. And at the same time, if my daughter was here, she'd laugh and go, "Oh yeah, you sound like the perfect mom and all that stuff." Like I tell my daughter, like if I'm not screwing up every day as your parent to try to push you to your best or to help
right.
you grow, then I'm not doing my job. But I also have to know that I'm going to love you so hard that I'm going to screw up.
Yeah,
And if you know I love you that hard when I screw up, you're going to be okay with it because you know I love you. Even
right.
if you have to come up and go, Mom, you got to stop doing this. Or Mom, when you do that to me, it makes me feel like this, you know? And I can even bring up, she probably will kill me that I'm going to say this. My daughter, the last week and a half, has really struggled hitting. And that's just not her. And I've had my opinions and I've just kept my mouth shut. Like just, and I've listened to her and I've done this. I've watched her make decisions that I go, not going to help you get out of this. Like, not going to help. But I just, you know, do you go spend time with your boyfriend on Sunday or do you go to the cage and go get better? Like, you know,
Teenage
those
girls.
kind of things. And when I say those things, like, so yesterday I'm giving lessons and it was to a couple of her high school friends and she's jumping in with them and they're okay with that because they like her watching and I'm watching and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm like, and you can see it like she's got these alligator tears and I'm like, don't do it. Don't do it because I'm knowing me. She does that. I'm going to light her up in this, right? Here, these kids are paying to work with me and she's going to come in and have puppy dog eye because she's struggling hitting. And let me add to you on this her struggling hitting is she's hitting 571 in high school. And she's
So
just
annoying.
horrible, rotten, no good, stinks hitter, right? And I'm sitting there now. She should be hitting higher because I know what she's capable of.
So
But
she's
at
capable
the
of,
same
right.
time, I'm like, okay,
71 is pretty dang good.
yeah. So yesterday, I shouldn't even admit this. Anyway, so she came into the house yesterday after hitting, and I was like, "So you over your pity party yet?" And she kind of looks at me and she's like, "What's that supposed to mean?" And I was like, "Are you serious?" And she starts laughing. I just roll my eyes and go into the kitchen. She's like, "No, seriously, what's that supposed to mean?" I'm like, "Your teammates are paying me money, and you're in there. You're the oldest out of them, and you've got like, oh, poor me, I can't hit syndrome." And she just kind of looked at me and she's like, "Oh, I'm already over it." I'm like, "Are you?"
Okay.
She kind of like looks at me and I was like, "The only way you get over that is you work. You work." "Well, I do work. I work hard." I'm like, Most of the time." I said, "But right now you're in your pity party with your crocodile tears rolling down the river and it ain't working." And so they have block periods. I shouldn't admit this, but I don't care. They have block periods at school. And I'm like, "You want to hit tomorrow in third period?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, I said, "I'm the same mom, the same coach that's been here the whole time while you've been going through this. And it took me saying to you, you want to go hit?" And she's like, "Yeah, yeah." So I purposely went late because I knew she'd have to hit off the tee. And I knew she just needed some alone time off the tee.
Yeah, right.
I come in and she's in this great mood and music's playing and she's drilling the ball right back to her old swing. She's like, "I feel pretty good." I'm like, "Really now?" And she's like, "Yeah, I do." I'm like, "Let me throw a front toss or pitch?" And she's like, "Yeah, just front toss." I'm like, "Only front toss?" And she's like, "Well, let's do a bucket of front toss and then live." I'm like, "Okay, we'll do that." So we're doing it and she's laughing and she's having it and she almost killed me two or three times. I was like, and I start laughing and she's like, "What?" And I was like, "Really?" I'm like, 35 minutes for you to get back to where you're at. And what did you fix the most? She's like, "My head." I'm like, "Absolutely. It's the 6
Don't you
inches
love softball?
between your it's the 6 inches between your ears." Now she might go 0 for 4 tonight, but I
Right.
can tell you she's in the position right now, mentally and physically, that probably she's gonna go lights out, and if she does, I'm probably not gonna feed her tonight because I'm gonna say it
Yeah,
was
right.
that hard, right? So I think those are the things that I would really challenge everybody with. Like, I don't know. This game is hard. You're gonna fail more than you're gonna succeed, and we're all idiots. We show back up every day to play it again
Yep,
because
absolutely.
so
Yep.
I guess that's where I'm at with those. But I guess I'm going to transition into this question. And I think probably we only have time. I'm going to do two first, and we're not even going to address them. I want us to bring up nutrition at some point in time. And I want us to
Yes,
look for some really good people that make it simple because I think eating good is expensive.
it
It takes
is.
preparation specifically in our sport because I think we're the only sport that say, hey, come play this one day tournament for 10 and 12 you, and they show up at 8 and they leave at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
It leans towards fast food. So I'd like to have someone like that. I'd really like someone to talk about hydration because I
Yeah.
think we're all dehydrated. I'm dehydrated
Yes.
right now. And I would
Right.
love to talk about the significance of that and all the different things that are out there. So that's one. And then a really big one that I want to save because I'm working on some things with a couple people right now is recruitment, like being recruited. What does that look like? What are some of the pitfalls? I would love to get maybe through our ambassadors on a podcast and get
Yeah.
the ambassadors and their parents and say, hey, what did you do that worked? What didn't work? What do you wish you would have known that you know now? And all those kind of things. And try to help and use that. Those are two huge topics that I don't think we can do now because we've talked so long about other. So transition into, and maybe you talk to it from a standpoint of how do you talk to your sister? How do I talk to my daughter after a tough loss or
Yeah.
after a tough, maybe that just maybe the team won and they were horrible. Like
Mhm.
how do you address that? How do you talk to them? What's the words? And I bring this up because we've got a really neat, exciting guest coming up soon with the elite competitor, Coach Bree, going to be talking to you about it. Of there are ways to talk and there's are ways
Yeah.
to handle things and let people process. If you use it from how did you talk to yourself? How did you receive information?
Yeah.
How do you talk to your sister after a tough game, a tough loss, a tough whatever?
Yeah. Well, how I talk to myself and my sister's a lot different. That's something I think, and it's a big topic now, and there's a lot more sports psychologists on campus. That's a topic that I wish I had not only more information about, but just would have done better overall in general. Not great self talk. Not I don't need to talk about what I said to myself after a bad game because it wouldn't be productive. But with that, having been out of it, and now the thing is now that I'm out of it, like it's a big deal, but it's not a big deal. But it feels like a big deal. Like it's one of those things where like, now that I'm out of it, I'm like you with Macy. I love watching her play. Like I don't really care if she goes 0 for 4 or 4 for 4. I mean, I'd like for her to go 4 for 4, but like I don't care. Like it doesn't change my mood, whether or not she does well or does bad. I like hate it for her, but I'm not like, oh, I'm not talking to you because you didn't do well. Like that's not having played and not doing it now. Like I realize like it's really not that big of a deal. It feels like it though. You feel like it's
Absolutely.
literally the end of the world and your parents shouldn't feed you dinner because you didn't hit well. But anyways, but with my sister, I think it always goes back to how they are and what they need. I think for me, I almost like, I don't avoid it, but I just am like, hey, good job. Like, regardless of if she struck out 4 times or if I don't treat her differently when she does well. So then I also don't treat her differently when she does bad. Like, I don't come up and be like, oh, like you crushed the ball today, whatever. And then when she does bad, I'm like, oh, good job. Like, I feel like I try to stay the same, like, regardless of if she does really well, really bad, just so that, she doesn't think I'm thinking any differently, whether or not I don't talk about her at bats. I don't say, oh man, like, gosh, what were you looking for at that at bat? Cause, I just kind of say good job. And if she says thanks and she wants to talk about dinner, like we'll talk about dinner. Or if she wants, she'll talk about her at bat if she wants to. That's kind of how she is. So I think it's important to it's the same thing as what we said earlier, just to listen and kind of like feel out. And I don't know how Macy is. I imagine it's similar, like feel out what they want to talk about it. Macy may not want to talk about it. She might be like, I don't want to talk about it. I want to go and talk about what we're having for dinner, or vice versa of, hey, like I really want to talk about that at bat. Like what did I do? Like, what are you looking at? So I think it's important just to listen and see where they're at with their mindset. But I think before you even respond, that's my thing. Especially as being an athlete, like that's what I would have wanted. I will talk about it with you if I want to talk about it with you, but if I'm not going to talk about it if I don't want to talk about it. And that's just it. So I think that's how I would go about it. I don't have a child, but like I said, I feel like it'd be pretty similar in that sense of just like kind of seeing how they are and if they want to talk about it. And if they don't want to talk about it, then talk about what they're doing the next day or whatever they want to talk about. I guess that's my biggest thing. I don't know
Yeah.
how you are, Casey.
I wish every kid came with directions, like, but they don't
Right,
think they have to
exactly.
read the directions, and I'm not great at that either, so
Right.
I think first and foremost, I have a son and a daughter, and if one's pepper, the other one's salt. And
Right.
they're a boy and girl. There's 13 years between them. Yes, the same father. We can discuss that all at a different date. But with those things, I because I was a coach, coaches in general are control freaks. I mean, that's just all there is because it's easy for us to do those things. You can ask my husband. I'm probably put him in therapy multiple times. I don't know with that process, but I think I think for me is I've had to, and maybe because I've gotten older, and I think I'm a much better parent the second time around than I was the first time around. Because when you're young and dumb as a parent, which I think God does that on purpose because children
Right.
are, so you have to be young and dumb to do it. But the second time around, if you really stop and think that they are their own people, and they're not, like they are
Yeah.
their own people and they have their total different thought process. I think the thing that I'm the most proud of Macy, and she's the baby of an old family. Like she's got her 80-year-old grandparents that are at everything. She's got her 30-year-old brother and sister-in-law. She's got me and her. She's got 6 adults in her life
Yeah.
all time. And what do adults do? They just give their opinions and give their advice at all time and expect just to process with it. And yet I still can't even process all of it now.
Yeah.
So I think the thing that I've always told Macy is like, I really want you to talk to me about the things that bother you that I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And I also have to say, you better be careful how you come at me because you have a smart mouth. I'm gonna backhand you. Like that's just the way it's gonna be, and you're just gonna deal with it. But I think it's really, really cool, like that we've come to the point where, I mean, the first thing I say as she goes to the field is we kiss each other's fingers and just touch each other. I'm like, don't embarrass me. And she's like, yeah, such a stop, calm mom. And like we'll joke about that.
Yeah.
And I think for me is I've become a better parent or coach for her the more I've been able to allow her to truly have that autonomy and process some of the things. Like my dad wants to talk to her about her swing. Everybody wants to give her all this advice. And she's
Right.
so incredible that she's like, it smiles and just does it.
Yeah.
And
Right.
she and I have kind of developed that thing where we just kind of like wink at each other and I'll veer the conversation in a different thing, or I'll say, hey, go load your bag up to give her that
Right.
time.
Yeah.
I
Right.
would love I would love for people to allow their children to tell them how they best hear them. And I think this is really funny is like when Macy had a situation with a coach and she was like, look, coach, when I'm mad and you're talking, I don't hear anything you're saying to me. You could be telling me that you just put $1 million in my mailbox and I don't hear a word you say. I just want you to shut up and go away. And she's like, and I'm not devaluing what you're saying to me, but
Yeah.
I'm not hearing you and I'm not
Right.
in a place to hear you.
Yeah.
And she's like, and yet I'm a kid. So I'm supposed to be respectful of my elders and you're my coach. So you control my playing time. So I should be just fitting into your world. And she's like, but I've got a mom that's told me that my world matters too. And that I
Mm.
need to advocate for myself. And she says, so I'm telling you right now, I'm not hearing a word you're saying to me because I'm mad. And and she's like, and if they want to come up and hug me and I'm mad, she's like, mom, don't hug me when I'm mad. Like I want to punch you. Like I'm gonna punch you. Like just leave me alone. And we laugh about it all the time because I'm like, oh, you mad? I'm gonna hug you. And we'll joke about it now, and she'll get so angry, and she's like, I hate that I even told you that. Like
Yeah.
we'll do those things. So I think it's really important. I mean, I guess everything is really simple when you step back away from it and know that we have to listen and that kids really are their own people.
Right.
They're their own people. And what is their why? Why are they playing? Maybe you as
Right.
a parent are helping them with everything because you want them to go play Power 4. Maybe they don't want to play Power 4.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe they want to go junior college. Maybe they want to just play in high school. That's
Mhm.
okay too. And yet then I say to the kids, but it's okay that if you want to just play at the high school level or at a different level that your parents say, we're not paying $10,000 summer for you to do this.
Right.
Like that's
Yeah, there's both
cool.
sides,
Like
yeah.
there's both sides of those things. So I think with that, I don't believe anybody. And like I said, it's hard to feel after a tough loss because I know in decisions that I made in my working coaching career. If somebody wanted to come up and say, it's just not that big a deal, don't worry about it, sun's going to come up tomorrow. You know what? I might be losing my job
Exactly.
tomorrow.
That made me mad. That's how I made me mad.
It is a big deal. And no, it's not world peace. And no, no one
Right.
lost their life over
But
it.
it's
But I
important to
just
you.
lost my starting position. It
It's
is a
important.
big deal. I've
Yeah.
been all this time. And so I
Right.
think it's okay that kids can get angry, that they can speak their mind.
Yes.
Like, don't put them in a box. Don't make them robotic.
Yes.
Teach them about emotions. Teach them about appropriate emotions. You
Correct. How
know,
to
you know,
right.
it's okay you get angry that you struck out. Run back to the dugout, go to your corner, cuss yourself out, hit yourself over the head with the bat, whatever you need to do. But then as coaches, do we allow them to have that space too? And I think that's
Right.
what coaches today, at least the ones I see
100%.
on TV, have done so much better than we ever did because we didn't know about all those things. Like it
Right.
was just easier if everybody fit in one box. Like if
Right.
everybody wanted to be treated the way I wanted to be treated and everybody listened and thought the way I want to be treated, well, hell, anyone could coach.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or if there was a way God could say, "Okay, here's the perfect fit here,"
Here's the instruction manual.
Yeah, I think that's really and kids are the same way. Like kids
Yeah.
are absolutely the same way. And
Yeah.
I I watch Macy a lot right now of all the different adults in her world that she has to juggle. And we always say, well, the coach, the adults have lots of kids to juggle, but it's a different juggle because kids are expected to obey the rules. Kids are expected
Right.
to talk
Yeah.
a certain way
Yeah.
when the adults aren't necessarily held to the same standard. And
Mm.
so it's really confusing mixed messages that we put out there. And yet that's the spice and the fun of life. I mean, that's
Yeah.
so cool. I would love to be your age again, but I don't want your brain. I
Right.
want your body. I don't want the time, but I don't want your brain because
Right.
the beauty of getting older is you have those experiences to learn.
Yeah. Right.
So I guess my challenge would be to you or to young parents or to young coaches is like submerge yourself with people who have been there and done that and ask them.
Mhm.
I mean, the best piece of advice, I will never forget this. I can see this as vivid as it ever happened. I was coaching at Arkansas. My best friend was coaching at Florida. They had just kicked our butt that day. And I'm over at their house. That's how good of friends we are. Like
Yeah.
I left
Right.
my team with my assistants and I went over to have dinner with them and we're sitting there and her husband played for Bear Bryant. So when I tell
Wow.
you like tough man, like
Yeah.
tough man,
Yeah.
and we're sitting there and I'm complaining and moaning about all these different things. And I can remember specifically, and he doesn't talk a lot, but when he talks, he's like, he makes like
You
you
better
listen,
listen.
you lean in to listen. And I can remember specifically saying, I've said it 100 times to the same thing. We do it over and over and over again. And he literally said, "Hey, how many times do you think you've told him?" I said, "At least 100 times." And he's like, "Say it 101." And he said that. And I kind of looked at him and I'm like pissed that he's even saying that to me. Like, how
Yeah.
could
You're
you?
like, shut up.
And he literally looked at me and he said, "How are you going to feel when your career's over and you're sitting there and somebody says, if you'd said it 101 times, I would have gotten it on that next time." He says, "Do you want to be the coach that stopped saying it the time before they were going to get it?"
Mm.
And I was like it just hit in a different way. Like what at that point in time is probably the time I can say that I felt like I stopped being a transactional coach. Like
Yeah.
I literally can like I don't know about you, but I remember the day, the spot, the smells, the thought process when I gave my life to Christ. I can remember
Yeah.
everything. And that was
Right.
as clear a moment in my coaching career that I went, whoa, and in the same boot, like I always have feared to be the coach that cut Michael Jordan. Like I never want to be that coach. Like
Yeah.
you're having tryouts and this kid can't like I could like hold the ball and they can't hit it out of my hand.
Right.
I don't want to be that coach that gave up on like what Sue was saying on the age that player is playing, not their actual age.
Yeah.
Because people
Right.
develop at different times. I think that would be my two nuggets that I would tell people as coaches and even as parents. When you're tired of saying the same thing over and over and over again, don't be afraid to say it one more time because
Yeah.
that's the time they're going to get it.
Mhm.
And then the other thing would be is like literally treat people the way they want to be treated. But to do that, you have to listen and you have to know, and knowing with young kids is they might think they think something one way and they really don't. And that's a growth
Right.
process too. Like
Yeah.
I don't respond to being yelled at, or I don't respond to being held accountable. And I'm here to tell you, like, my daughter would have told you that 4 or 5 years ago, and in a big way, I had to hold her accountable where it
Yeah.
hurt. And
Yeah.
I can tell you that was the day I look back now that totally turned her world around
Yeah.
and
Right.
that was a parenting decision, not even a coaching decision.
Mhm.
That I sit there and go, "Boy, had we only known." We literally talked about it the other day, and she's like, "Man, I wonder where I would have been had this not happened." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Well, I can tell you where you would have been." And she's like, "Shut up,
You're
mom. You
like,
don't
"Not
know."
here."
"Oh, I know." And it's hard. It's really hard. And I think but that's the beauty of life too. Like, I wouldn't trade anything to be where we're at right now and what she's going through and watching her. And I'm so excited for her future. And like I told Courtney the other day, I'm glad she's about your problem just about now. Because
Yeah,
pretty
we're
soon,
like,
yours.
"You can
Like,
have her
I
after."
just
Yeah.
get to show up like grandma and go, "She's so cute." And
Yes.
I'm ready for those too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I mean, I think that's really where it's at. And I guess the last thing that I would like to throw in is everything we've talked about really talks about those boundaries as being a parent and a coach, because those are two different things, like really truly two different things. And for me, that was always blurry because until right now, I've always been Macy's coach, and I'm so excited that I'm just her parent, and I'm still always going to be her coach. I went through to her today, but it's a
Right.
different way. I'm not having to write the lineup. I'm not having to hold her accountable for something that she does on the field. And I think being a parent means you love so hard that you have to step away and let your kids hurt. And you have to
Mhm.
step away and let them fail. And I think I've said it 1,000 times. If I've said it once with you, is I really truly do. And people look at me, I'm crazy. I want my daughter to fail miserably in the next year and a half. Like watching her go through this hitting slump right now, I'm like, yes, like I'm celebrating it as a parent. And it was hard to keep my mouth shut because the solution's so flippin' easy.
Right. Yeah.
But
Right.
it can't be my solution, because if it is, then she's always running to me to get
Yep.
that solution. And the facts of the matter is I'm an old parent. I'm not going to be around as long for her as a lot of parents would be around for their kids. So I guess for me right now, I look at it is that I want to give her all of the skills and all of the tools so that when I'm not here, that she can survive and thrive, not just survive, but thrive.
Yeah.
And I jokingly always tell her, yeah, and then you'll always hear my voice later. When I'm gone and dead, I'll still be that needle and just sitting there needling you. And she's like, shut up, mom. I'm like, oh, it's going to happen. So I think that's really where I'm at in that process. Is
Yeah.
it's really important. At the end of the day, it's a game, but it's a game to prepare them for life. I
Yeah.
can't think of another game that prepares you as, and I'm probably because I'm biased, it prepares you as much for
I
life as
completely agree.
it does.
Yeah.
Not basketball, not volleyball, maybe track, because who likes to run? But
Right.
I think but even then, track, it's on your own. Like you don't
Yeah.
succeed, it's your fault. You know, you have to learn life skills that in softball that it's not always going to be you
Right.
control everything else. So I guess that's it. And I guess those are some hot topics. And we went really long and hard. But I think my biggest thing for me, Katie, is I want to challenge everybody that's out there listening to the podcast or involved in extra innings softball or not even involved, just in our sport, that I hope and pray the reason that I've come and to work here is that I want to create a one-stop shop that gives everybody something to grow from for really inexpensive. Like, okay,
Yeah.
yes, rankings, we all like them, we can post them, we can do that stuff, but let's start looking at facilities and organizations and parent stuff and recruiting and all these kind of things to where you can come, and I'd love to see us have a forum where you can type in a question and say, hey, I want to know about X, Y, and Z. That scares the heck out of me being a company running it that way, because you can't always control what people say. But I
Right.
think if we're really going to encourage growth, we have to encourage conversation, which means we have to encourage listening, which means we have to learn from the past, which means we need to look for a future. And in the end of it all, if we keep in mind that it's all for our daughters or our sisters, we're better off for it.
Make sure you go on our website and go vote on our polls. We have polls all for the parents. We have questions about how parents can best help their child embrace their role on the team. We have questions about the defensive mask. I know that's been a huge topic on our podcast, but we now are asking you guys the question instead of just giving our own opinion about it. If you think defensive masks should be mandated, we talk about, being a coach and a parent and that the daddy ball, as you will, what you think about that, or having a neutral coach, and a lot more. So make sure you go on our website and go vote. We want to hear y'all's opinions, and we'll definitely put them on the podcast once we hear from y'all. Be very interesting to see. I want the masks is what I want to know. I want to know what people are
Yeah,
saying
absolutely.
about that.
And we have some really cool new things getting ready to start. And I'm really excited about them getting ready to break, because it's going to be things that are going to elevate our sport
Yes.
in conversation. And what I really want people to know is that we're asking you to weigh in. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
can have my opinion. Obviously, I'm very opinionated, and Katie can have hers, and we can all have it. But we want to give a forum to where yours is there, and we want to hear what you want. So whether it's on our social medias, or it's ranking at extrainning.softball.com, or Carie or Katie at that, whatever it is, like, we want to hear from you about facilities, about costs, about everything there is. And we're always looking for hot topics, new topics,
Mm-hmm.
directions, the things that are trending. Like, what's
Yeah.
trending? Like, what is it that you want? Like, I don't know. I think it would be really cool for all of us to be able to say as a collective, like, we help take the game here.
Yes.
I don't ever want to have a real job. I just like to play in the dirt and have fun. So that's what I hope that everybody here at Extra Innings Softball gets.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you, Carie. And hopefully you guys will stick around. We'll have a conversation about nutrition, about I think we have a
Recruiting.
hitting,
L
a
hitting.
recruiting, we have
And
a
we've got a
hitting.
great thing coming up with that You Hit Softball. Yep. Yep.
Yes, we have
Awesome.
a hitting guru coming up for our podcast as well. So make sure you subscribe and comment down below what topic you want to talk about next. We want to hear from you guys. So make sure you comment and subscribe, and we will see you guys next week.